need you on stage.
Waking up the fingers and the brains. All right, I'm very excited about this. I'm going to share a discovery that's really been useful to me for learning the best places to play notes on the fretboard, and that certainly is a useful thing for guitar. And in the title of this course, I used the word Arscalios, which is a combination of the word arpeggio and the word scale smushed together. And I just wanted to think about the difference between a scale and an arpeggio. What is the difference? And one way to think about the difference is a scale has all the notes and an arpeggio has some of the notes. And for example, if you play a C major scale, it has 7 notes in it, which is a lot. It's a lot of notes. But a C major triad actually only has 3 different notes. So you got 7 or you got 3. 7 is a lot more. And as I started learning all these different scales and arpeggios, I realized that there's a threshold. You know, when the scale starts getting less and less notes, for example, the pentatonic scale only has 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it starts repeating in octaves. So it only has 5 different notes. Where if you actually took like an A13 chord, you took all the notes in that, you know, I'm not actually playing all of them on a guitar because this guitar only has 6 strings. There we go. And even then I still wouldn't be missing the 11th. But I think that chord, in theory, actually has 7 notes. So that arpeggio would have more notes in it than a 5-note pentatonic scale. So these terms are kind of blurry. You know, but in general, I like to think of scales having a lot of notes and arpeggios having less. And what I began to realize is what really matters is not how many notes there are, but which notes there are, and what kind of sonic flavor you get from picking the ones that you like. And from listening, there'd be certain songs or certain chords, and my ear would just gravitate to certain notes. I'd go like, I love that. Whenever that note hits, it just sounds great. For example, I really like the sound of a minor 9 chord and a minor 9 arpeggio. I'll get more rock sound, hold on. That's sort of a semi-shredded E minor 9 arpeggio all over the place. I love the sound of that. So my goal was to only play those notes that I wanted, to do them purposefully, to do them with intention. And I want to show you my technique for doing that, and it involves neck paper. And I wanted to make some giant neck paper by drawing it there. If you go on the internet and Google neck paper, chances are you can download some. And I first started using neck paper actually really early on, because my first guitar teacher when I was 11, actually he was my second one, he was my first guitar teacher that I liked, used a lot of neck paper, and he would draw out the shapes of chords and of scales, and you could see it, and it looked exactly like a guitar neck. So it was a great way to memorize shapes and a great way to build new things. So I want to show you via my giant neck paper here how I build things and how I discover new places to play that are really, really useful. So here we go. So first of all, in case you've never seen neck paper before, the way you read this is the bottom of it is your big, low E, thickest string. So, and actually, you know, it doesn't really show, like this would be the nut, and you know, I put the dots on there, so you probably know already how to read this. But if I was going to play, let's see, a B note there, you know, you'd draw a little dot here on the B, and then that's where it would be. If I was going to draw you know, this G note, that'd be there. So now you know neck paper. Very easy stuff. So here's an example of how I learn new things. I might take, I'm going to actually begin with 5 notes. And these not only am I going to show you the method of the neck paper, but I'm going to show you 5 really, really cool notes. These 5 notes blew my mind and continue to blow my mind. And they are, this is what I do first, because I'm a lousy reader, so I just write down the letters of the notes, because I'm okay with the letters. I know what a B is. So I write down the letter B. Let's see, I'll put it on the bottom because there's more room. A B, a C sharp, let's see, an E, an F sharp, and a G. I'll tell you why I put those notes later. I just want to show you first how I do this. What I do is I find all the B's. You know, I go on each string just methodically. Okay, I'll go this string. Here's a B, so I'm going to draw a circle. Or actually, I'm going to draw a. Yeah, there we go. I want to make sure I can tell the difference between that and the dots. So I'll do it without the. There we go. There's my B. And then on the next string, there's a B here. And there's one here. On the next string, where's the B? We got one here. This is a good exercise for knowing where the notes are on the neck as well. Got a B here. Got an open B. 12th fret. And a B there. So there's a bunch of B's. Now we're going to add the C sharp. Here, there's the C, you know, and these are all a whole step above, so they're easy to find. We can just look for our B and put it a whole step above. C sharp, C sharp. And E's, we go on the open E, one at the 12th fret, here on the A string, B string, where do we get the E here, and open E, F, or let's see, F sharp now, here. And our last one, G, there, where's the G? I feel like Bob Ross. Happy little G's. And that's it. So these are all the notes that I wanted everywhere on the fretboard. And this is really useful because now I can look for easy shapes to play. I just look at there and think like, where are my fingers going to fit in a way that's comfortable? And let's see, in this particular one, where did it go? Ah, I see it. And I'm going to draw a line around it. There we go. So the reason I picked this is I found a 2-note per second pattern that is almost exactly like a pentatonic scale that everybody else in the world plays. Oh, blue one, that's great. Everybody knows that pentatonic shape. And if you look at this, it actually is exactly the same as a C-sharp minor pentatonic scale, with one exception. The note that's normally here on the B string, I drop down a half step. And the note that's normally here on the A string is dropped down a half step as well. Let's hear how this sounds. It sounds like this. I'll tell you why I picked these notes and how to use them. Lately I've become very enamored with playing over dominant chords. They're the main chords that you find in blues music and a lot of other music as well. And I was exploring what notes sound good over an A7. And I found I really liked those. And let's look at them. Basically, I'll give you the answer. This is an A13 arpeggio without the root, which Scotty was talking about earlier, how, you know, your bass player can play the root. You don't need that. This has the other colorful notes that really define the sound of the A13. It also doesn't have the 11th, which sometimes in theory should be in a 13 chord, but to me, these are the ones I really like. And if you look at this interval by interval, you've got the 9th, the major third, the 5th, the 13, and the dominant 7th. And so over that A13 chord, now we'll turn off your brains and turn on your ears. There's the chord, and over that, what a beautiful sound. I'm going to do that over the 4 chord, and I'm going to move the same scale shape up. Let's see, that would be... and over E. Sorry. So I feel like a sophisticated, you know, person that knows what they're talking about now that I got those notes down. It's to me, it's so hip not to play the root. And if somebody said, okay, do a solo and don't play the root, that's almost impossible. You know, to just dive in. You really need a shape that you know that has that intention of I'm only going to stick to these notes. And so that was my beginning point. And again, I love this because, you know, everybody for saying just visualize C-sharp minor pentatonic. The you know, your regular guitar scale. You know, scale everybody knows. But we changed this. You know, that note that was normally there went, and this one went. You know, you can see how the shape is similar, and that's why I chose that one. I just chose one that's easy. It's easy for me to visualize because it's similar to something that I already know. And but the sound is totally new. And let's see, that's one of them. So I'm going kind of quickly here because I'm excited. Let me find the next one. So I started as easy as I could with a 2-note per string shape. And all your pentatonic licks will work inside this. It's really, your fingers are going to be happy about this. And if you like the sound of an A13, your ears will be as well. But the next thing I did was I thought, well, what other shapes might I be able to use besides this one? So I'm going to get rid of our mushroom cloud shape here. And I'll try to repair the damage I've done. Put my notes back, my dots. Where's the 12th fret? Here we go. And see what I did. Here, I can see. Okay, the next one I'm going to look for, and again, when I look for fingerings that I consider to be easy, there's some, it's nice to have a consistent pattern. Like when it's 2 notes on a string, your fingers love that. That's, you know, because every time you switch to a new string, you're in familiar territory. 2, 2, 2. All your patterns will work. So I want to look for more consistent patterns, but the next one I'm going to look for is initially inconsistent, but then as you go it gets consistent. And that is 2 notes on a string, then 3 notes on a string. And I'm going to find it here with that shape. So you can see there's 1, 2.
Thank you.
And then 1, 2, 3. And that's got all the 5 notes that I want. It's got B, C sharp, E, F sharp, and G. That's exactly what I want. Now from there, this one I should get erased. I'm going to go up and play this shape, which is identical. So your brain is going to love this because you don't have to learn anything new. You can see that these two shapes are identical shapes. They're in a different spot because obviously they're on different strings, and this one is up a whole step in position. But they're the same thing. They're the same kind of semi-rhombus shape. And even here, I ran out of room on the board. But here is another one, an octave higher, that is the same shape. So this is actually the same exact 5 notes that we played in the previous one, but a completely different way of fingering it. And why would you need more than one way to finger the same notes? And the reason is, fingerings on a guitar dramatically affect the rhythmic phrases that you're going to be pulled towards. You know, if you have a certain number of strings, it tends to be like a rhythm magnet, and it'll influence. It can't help but influence how you phrase. And so having a combination of different ways to play the same notes will actually really improve your rhythmic phrasing options. Now let's take a look at this one and see how it sounds. It sounds like this. Now by itself again, it's a little strange because I'm not playing the root. So I'm going to get the root in our ears. The A13 chord again. And now let's hear those notes. Okay, that's the bottom. Now we'll play the middle one. Same thing. So this is so cool because when you get a phrase that works in one, you can do it an octave higher. And then another octave higher. So you can really expand your vocabulary that way. And it's the same lick. I'm just searching for rhythms that come easily inside that shape. I wouldn't have found that rhythm in that shape I showed you at first. That rhythm isn't as easy to pull out of that shape, but it comes really easy out of this shape. So that's why I look for the different shapes for the same notes. It's worth it for the rhythms. All right. This one you can also, for anybody that hasn't done the 2 notes on a string and 3 notes on a string, it takes some getting used to. And technique-wise, I use a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs. To make that happen. But these you can get through them pretty quick. You know? Such a hip sound. Your bass player holding down the A. Let me try that over the 4 chord. I'll move it up. Let me try it again without messing it up. 1, 2, 4. I gotta visualize it. So these are great for, like, you know, the 16th note. Great for 16th note lines. All right, but there's more. And again, when I'm looking at this, I'm really, you know, I'm like an eagle searching for the mouse. You know, I'm a note predator, trying to find out the best, or a shape predator, I should say. Looking for shapes that are playable. And you know, it's very much has to do with the instrument, with guitar as a specific instrument. This is not piano, this is how you play it on the guitar. And neck paper is a great way to do that. Let's find one more.
No.
Reconstruct my neck paper. it back. So with the 12th fret. Okay, if I forgot any, I'll put them back in. So the next one, as I gaze at my fingering possibilities, I'm going to do another tune-up or string version of this, but I'm going to take into consideration that even the fact that I've got big hands, there are limits. And when it gets to the point of certain stretches, it just gets impractical. So the one that I'm going to look at that I like is this set. Let me do the blue. This set up here is kind of nice. There's 2 notes in a string, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And the stretches aren't too bad. I've got a whole step, a half step stretch, and a minor third stretch. That's all doable. But if I continue down, here is a major third stretch, which I can do, but if I can avoid it, I'd rather avoid it. So one thing, I can just take this by itself, but I want to have a longer run. So what I did is I spied over here is another 2, 2, and 2 shape. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And those are very close together. You don't have to do a very big position shift for that to happen. And then I want to look for even another one right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And this is a really easy one. You just get a half step, whole step, and a whole step. And now I can make it all the way from the low E string to the high E string in 2 note per string sets of 3 strings. And let's hear how that sounds. Again, the same notes. We haven't changed any notes. We're sticking with our intention of the notes that we wanted. And this would be the top one. Again, I want to play the chord to get that sound in our head. And here are the notes for the top one. Okay. The middle one is actually the same thing, an octave lower. And the bottom one. So again, you know, I grew up with the Ramones, so I'm really excited to be able to sound this sophisticated with fingerings that I think are relatively easy, and that I keep discovering from this method of just drawing stuff that looks easy to play. And now this one, I should say that this is easy to play because it's 2 notes on a string, and to me there's nothing all that challenging about just going and coming up with phrases inside it. You know. But this one does take some visualization practice. You know, if you look at those shapes, they're a little odd. They're not as easy to visualize as, you know, the pentatonic scale. But this is a great thing to practice. It really gives you brand new places and brand new sounds on your instrument. Oh yeah, here we go.
So there's no bad place to land, right?
No bad play?
No bad place to land. No.
Oh, bad, yeah.
No bad note.
Well,
land on, right?
let me put it this way: these I've actually designed for playing fairly quickly. I do need to be aware a little bit of how the notes relate to the chord. For example, this is a combination of chord tones being the root. Actually, I didn't use the root, but it's got the 3rd and the 5th and the 7th. But it also has 2 extensions, the 9th and the 13th. They're strong extensions because they're inside the chord, and if that's the sound I'm going for, it's going to be all right to sit on them for a little while. But I should be aware that they don't quite have the same, they have a slightly different character than the chord tones. But again, that's what practice is for, to sort of just go through and get used to how they sound and you know, to digest it.
The top position that you play there, is your first finger being used on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string? Are you shifting your first finger?
Let's see, the fingering for it, I would use the 3rd string from the top, and for that one there. I'd probably stay with the third. It's sort of maybe if I started from the bottom, I'd use my pinky.
Okay.
But if I started from the top, I'd use the third. Yeah, either one will work. You can, you can ask who's in the mood. I'll do it. Don't worry. I don't have vacation. Okay, so now that you've got the principle, I want to give you a more heavy metal one. Oh yeah.
So you just like, you just pick the chord that you like?
That's right.
You just pick like a chord that you like, and then you just like work.
Oh, that's a good question. Now, basically, you can do this with anything. Just pick any notes that you like, and you can make a picture of the fretboard with all those notes everywhere. And then, go through and find shapes that are playable. And then, you have to practice the tests and get used to phrasing them. But to me, that's the process. And these particular ones, I found a combination of music theory and listening to it and playing songs, and that was my result. I didn't want to give you too long of a theory explanation just because I'm not good at it. But actually, this was one step further than my original one. The original one I did had no F sharp in it. I just did a four note one, and that's actually. I don't want to blow your mind with my bad theory explanation, but that's actually a minor 7 flat 5 substitution. If you play a C sharp minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, which those four notes are, I'm sorry. Yeah, C sharp minor 7 flat 5 is really similar to an A9 chord. So that was my beginning, but I ended up adding the F sharp to make it A13, and the result I got was something that I found it to be a little more useful. So I wanted to give you guys the most practical, useful thing that I use the most because I think it was a good result.
If we wanted to use this, where are we really starting it from? Like,
What's that?
what note are we going to start on? Like, in relation to the chord, we're going to start on.
Oh, for phrasing with this, I mean, like the very first one that I showed you, which again, I would start there. So once again, visualize that C sharp minor pentatonic scale. And then, shape-wise, all you're doing is lowering. That becomes. So you toss out the F sharp and make it an F natural. Or I'm sorry, G sharp and make it a G natural. And then the same thing, the two middle notes are the same. No changes. Then when you get to the A string, that was your original note, pentatonic scale, but we're going to change it to that G natural instead. So again, the whole scale. Now, to use that, I got to know my rhythmic framework. What is the groove? So I'm going to do "Feeling All Right" by Joe Cocker. If I go. I'm feeling so good myself. I sort of went just straight down, like, I guess maybe I did 5 or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Right? I just started doing patterns that came to me because I practiced a lot.
What key were you originally in?
One more time.
What key was were the chords in?
Oh, I did an A7 and a D7. And actually, if I really wanted to nail that, I should probably do something different over the D7. So I might go like, there, I'm trying to nail both key settings. Oh, and that reminds me, there's one more. This is so cool. I'll put it over to Paul. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, there.
Yeah. Would you say it's important to do this with as many chords as you possibly can, or is it just preferable to do it on the chords you like?
Well, I definitely do the ones you like. The question is it preferable to do all the chords you can? I mean, you're a human being. You can't just install it, and watch the time bar go, and then you suddenly can play everything. So it's a gradual process. So I would take stuff that you have to sort of be aware of your confidence level of things. And to me, I like to be as confident as possible at all times. So I take things in a little you know, in little sections and really work them up so I feel good about it, then add a little bit. I'm a very gradual learner. And the stuff I've shown you here, I've been working on for the last 2 years. You know, I'm just giving you 2 years of work. But again, you can do this to any notes that you like. And the one, yeah, I gotta show you this. This one's so cool. So actually, all I'm going to do here is take out the F sharps. I do want to do that minor 7 flat 5 substitution. And that's a scary sounding thing, but it's not, because it's only 4 notes. And that's the thing I should emphasize as well, is when I say only 4 notes, I mean only 4 different notes. Obviously, we can play it in octaves and we get a lot of notes at the end of it, but there's only 4 different ones. And the thing I'm about to show you, the thing we just did was 5 notes. So this one, you know, all this stuff I would not have ever come up with if I was just doing my typical teenage method of practicing. When I was a teenager, I would basically just sort of whittly and look for things, sort of trial and error. And I found a lot of great stuff that way. This is a very methodical way of playing a very specific set of notes that you've chosen in advance that you like, and the results will surprise you. And let's see, I gotta get rid of the F sharps. So that F sharp is gone. This F sharp is gone. This F sharp is gone. This F sharp is gone. Gone. F sharps be gone. Okay, let me fix up the neck so it's not horrible looking. Thank you for your patience while I draw the neck. Okay, the next one we're going to do is also basically the same purpose as the last one. Fits really well over dominant chords. If you have any reason to ever play a minor 7 flat 5 chord, it'll work over that as well. And those can be cool sometimes. Okay, let me make sure I've got frets in there. Dots. Dots are very important. I can't play without the dots. Back. If I forgot one, here's. Okay, so we've changed it. We've got 4 notes now, and you know, I should just officially announce the last thing we did was all basically an A13 arpeggio without the root and without the perfect fourth, because I thought those were less interesting than the other ones. This one would actually be C sharp, minor 7 flat 5. What a complicated sounding thing that is. But it's only 4 notes, and I'm sort of doing them out of order here, just because you know, I don't know. But my favorite fingering actually starts with that. So this is a little guitar bass there, why it started with the beat. But don't worry, this, as long as they're there in some order, it's this arpeggio, and this fits really well over an A7. It's just a coincidence of intervals. So, okay, so let's find some cool shapes. The first one, actually, I'm going to show you the one that I really want to get to here, which is, let me visualize it for a second. Okay, I'm seeing it. Now, you know what a pyramid looks, or actually a pyramid looks like this. And there is an inverse pyramid that's living in here. It looks like this. And we can find it right here. That's a very easy shape to memorize because it's so symmetrical. It really is, you know, a nice shape. And it's just it's got 1 on the bottom, then 2 notes out a little bit, then 1 in the middle again, then 2 notes. It's a mirror image of itself. So the eye has a nice shape. Let's see how it is for the ear. And another thing is like I said, we're playing this over an A7, and to know where to play it, if you just take this sort of visual focal point of that bottom note, it's right above A, which is your root. So if we play the A7, actually I'm going to change that to A9, because that's really more accurate. Very, very similar chords, just the A9's got an extension on it. The James Brown chord. And now if we play these notes, we have. And I'm gonna lay some string skipping on you here. If I take out that B note, then I get. Which fits right into the format of so much of my string skipping stuff that I'm already comfortable with. And it's, again, that would be 2 notes on a string, 2 notes on a string, and 1 on the bottom. 2, 1, or 2 again, and 1 on the bottom. Useful to phrase with because it basically feels like a pentatonic scale, but the notes are more sophisticated than I've ever thought I would ever play as a Ramones fan as a teenager, and I'm digging it. So that's the symmetrical one, and let me show you this one too. As you can tell, I'm excited about this. The more I look at here, the more I see shape possibilities that give me whole different rhythmic possibilities, and it's all in a sound that I like. Okay, the last one. Now, I've been talking about how many notes per string. Like it's 2 notes per string, and it's 3 notes per string, and you can get creative with that. You know, I think a lot of, in the shred world, 3 note per string is very popular, but there's so many options, and each one gives you different rhythms that will really expand your rhythmic toolbox. All right, so now I'm going to look and find some 1 note per string shapes, and let's find them here. This is I'll string skipping as well, but I'm going to start with that one. That's not too bad. That's actually a pretty familiar little major triad shape, and I'm going to find one here. So we're kind of actually using the same shape that we just played, but we're looking at the order of the notes differently. This time it's 1 note per string, 1 note per string. Here's one right in the middle. Very shapy. I mean, you can really see that the eye likes this, and hopefully the ear will as well. But it's important in a way, especially for faster playing, that your eye likes it, because when you get going quicker, you have to be able to see those things, or you're gonna. Your fingers will fly off the neck and disaster will strike. Okay, here's another one. 1 note per string. We're sharing a note there, but we'll play them separately. And I'm going to add one more, and just for the heck of it, because I want to expand the lick, I'm going to break my rule here, and I'm going to add A, the root of the A9 chord, and make one here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 note phrases that are 1 notes on the string. Let's hear how they sound. So once again, you get the A9 in your head. And we have. Oh, I love that. I never would have found that by just like messing around here. I mean, I love that stuff too, but this really expanded what I can do with a dominant chord, what I can do with an A9 chord. And there I put a pattern. I played the top note twice. But you can just play it straight as well. That's that one. This one is. So again, this all came from just drawing shapes. I'm sure there's more. These are just the ones I've found initially. All right, so it's very possible that some of you never want to play a dominant chord in your life, and it's a horrific sound. So I want to do some that are this is a different kind of sound. This one's going to be a minor one. That's great for heavier rock kind of stuff. And also, I mean, minor chords are used in a lot of different music. So this will work in jazz, work in anything. So give me a minute while I reformat our thing here. The first thing I'll do actually is I'm going to write the notes down so you can ponder the notes. And the notes I'm going to pick that are going to fit on here, I'll do it in D. So this is going to be a D minor 9 arpeggio. And again, never be fearful of these titles. I mean, I think everybody's got varying levels of comfort with how much music theory terminology you're willing to accept into your life. And you know, I'm kind of in the middle. I really like some of it, but I've got a threshold where I just go, ugh. And I'm guessing that everybody's got that threshold where they're like, that's enough. Like, I can deal with a pentatonic, but you know. And so I'm going to give you the names of these things, but in the end, remember, it's just a set of notes. It's just a set of notes that sound good. And this one is going to be a D minor 9 arpeggio. Very useful in all kinds of music. Oh, sorry, that's a 7. I want to make it a 9. And that's got 5 notes, which is not too many. No more than pentatonic, it's just a little different. And let's see, in the key of D, now again, I'm gonna be very guitar-centric about this, and I'm gonna do it in order of how I like to think about it in terms of fingering. So my first note is actually gonna be, think about my guitar for a second. I'm used to playing this in E, but it won't fit on my neck, so I gotta, there it is. Okay. We're starting on the 5th. It's gonna be A, which is the 5th, C, the 7th, D, which is the root. I am going to play the root this time. Then we have E, which is the 9th, and F, which is the minor 3rd. So those are our notes we're going to ponder. Pretty simple. And now let's write them on here. So again, you can, I mean, I do this all the time. I go on the internet, I put in neck paper, download it, print it out, and you know, print out lots of it. And I put it in Photoshop and sort of tweak it because I don't like the way they put the dots. I also make like extended neck paper. Sometimes I'll do it from the 7th fret way up to the top if I want to do some more, you know, high range things. So I'm a big neck paper fan. Actually, you know, this is so messy, I'm just going to do a new one. Yeah, nice and clean.
You need a neck board.
Yes, I do need a neck board. That's all right. I give you guys so much information. You can take a moment to rest your brain. All right. And in case you don't have the internet, you can draw your own. You're stuck on an airplane, nothing to do. Draw out the neck. It looks like tablature, but it's not. Oh, this time actually, I put enough frets where I can do it in E. I mean, it's guitar after all, we got to play in E. Well, let's change this to the very satisfying key of E minor 9. Okay, so now it's going to be B the 5th, D the 7th, E the root, F sharp the 9th, and G the minor 3rd. And let's put our dots so we know where we are. And now we're going to draw the notes. Where are our B's? Although, actually, you guys know how to do this, so I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer. I'm going to do a B here, a D here, an E, an F sharp, and a G. And that is my main shape. So we just got 5 notes, playing the entire arpeggio in 1 octave. All right, we have the core of the sound, and we want to expand it in octaves. And I should say again that I'm doing 2 notes on a string and 3 notes on a string, which initially, if somebody would have shown me that when I was a teenager, I would have gone, impossible! You cannot play two notes on a string and then 3. It's inconsistent, it won't work. But with a little bit of practice, it does. It will give you a unique way of phrasing. And once you get used to it, you can put it in octaves and just play the same lick over and over again, or expand the range of your arpeggio. So there is exactly the same notes, exactly the same shape, but up an octave. And let's do it again. Same shape, same fingers. You learn 1 lick, you get 2 others for free. And there, you can see what we've got. And let's hear what it sounds like. So our full range arpeggio from the top. And for a guitarist, that's a wide range. We're going all the way from this high G down to this low B. Most traditional fingering shapes don't have that much range out of them. So this really has a lot of drama inside of it. That's more of a, getting into piano territory, because pianos, of course, they can go all over the place. But what a great sound that is. So it can be heavy, or it can also be Sade. I don't know if you guys have heard the song, That's Taboo! Or what's that, what's the other Sade hit? Smooth Operator. That is Smooth Operator! Sade always does her chorus hooks with the 9th. That's Taboo! Smooth Operator! Alright, I'm going to give you 1 extra little secret with this. And again, this demonstrates, what I'm going to do is going to demonstrate that you can use exactly the same notes, but depending on where you put them, it'll open up different rhythmic phrases. So I want to focus on these 2 notes, this B and this D up there. And for your technique, this is one of the most challenging parts of this arpeggio, because look how far away it is from here. That's a big jump. It's a 3-fret fingering jump to go from here to here. So what I'm going to do is take these 2 notes and I'm going to move them. I'm going to use the same notes, but I'm going to find them in another spot. And I'm going to find them here, a D note there, and a D note there. So, actually, you can put this here as well. Is that right? I think so. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm doing these. This one is not there. Yeah, so this equals that. And that's the same. Same sound, but it's closer. It's not as many frets away. It does involve a string skip to get there, but if you've worked on the technique, that's not going to be too bad. And let's hear what we can do with that. So instead of going, that would be this one. Same sound, but it's a little easier to play. And to me, anything that I can make easier, I'm a big supporter of that. So let me show you one other little thing that fits on here. Because whenever I see shapes, I want to try to just take advantage of similarities. Let me find this one. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so here's a tune-up string thing. Now, here's just a little phrase I found. Temporarily, I'm going to get rid of this root. And I'm going to make another tune-up string shape here. So I've got this one and this one. Two targets on the top of the arpeggio. So the first one is that's na-na-na. The second one is that's na-na-na. And if I come from this one, I can alternate between the two. So I can go like. So I'm really getting a lot of phrases that I just love. Let me mess around with that a little more just because I'm excited about it. Alright, so it's a lot of 16th notes from a very simple shape and a couple little tweaks, all the same notes. I didn't use any note except for these 5. A lot of melodic intention there. Alright, now we haven't done any string bending in this, so I just have to say that, you know, if on a record, I would make sure to do some, you got to get some vibrato, those other elements, but just as a way to memorize cool places to play on your fretboard, neck paper, choosing some notes that you like, regardless of what they are, putting them everywhere, drawing circles around them where they look easy to play, is a really cool way to expand what you know on the fretboard. All right, I'm going to quit talking to see if you guys have any questions. I didn't think so. Let me make sure I'm doing okay on time, because I can go forever. Okay, all right. Oh, there we go.
I had a question actually on the string skipping, which is something I never really did a lot of. And it's to downpick or uppick.
Oh, the actual picking strokes for string skipping. Well, of course, it depends on the specific lick. For this one, for example, where we're doing 3 notes on a string, and then 2 on top. But really, the pattern, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Even though it's only 2 different notes, I'm actually, the rhythm, I repeat 1. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And when I loop it, this 3 note becomes more than 3, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So it's actually 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a variety of ways to play this. I mean, initially, when I'm playing at this slower tempo, I'm just alternate picking, playing everything. But string skipping does require a big jump with your right hand, actually with both hands. So I find it easier to give my right hand a couple of little vacations, and so it can be ready to do that big skip. Because I can't avoid that. Whenever I go from here, the G note, to that B, that's the toughest part. That requires the biggest physical motion. And so I want to give myself as many rests as possible to prepare for that. And that's where, doing these 3 notes, I might do more hammer-ons and pull-offs. So when I get to that shift, it's easier. The thing that I want to give you something valuable, and this can get really complicated, depending on what how many notes are on a string. There's so many variables. So I just want to give you like a simple thing you can practice to make this happen.
The thing that actually got me stuck was the very beginning of the Fuzz Universe.
Oh yeah.
When you do the first 2 notes.
What is? I forgot how it goes. Forgot me on song. It's like Freebird, but with a minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. That would be the same as. totally forgot it. I'd have to listen, I'd have to sit down for 5 minutes. But anyway, I know what you mean. It was basically like,
And it's the second part, whether you hammer on the second part or you pick the second part.
I would say for those things, the best way to really learn it is to actually start with simpler things. I mean, I never started, you know, day one for me was not string skipping. It was all based on like doing like talking about like Freebird like. Starting to do with the string skip. So I would try to develop those techniques. Let me show you this lick, because this really is the core of everything for string skipping, for me anyway. And that is, you know, doing 2 notes, C and A. I think Freebird's actually in G, but the A's are friendlier key for looking at the guitar. And let's see. I think I'm picking everything except for the second note. It's pulled off, then after that, the others are picked. So. And it's basically alternate picking, except when I do that pull-off, the note that I would have picked there, I'm not picking. And the way I should explain this is kind of something I should write down. This is something I often do that makes picking easier for string skipping, for everything. And it's easier. It's very easily shown if I write it, and not so easy if I talk about it. So, how many notes? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that was just 4. That was just a 4-note pattern. So, for alternate picking, our strokes would be right, left, or no. I'm always thinking bongos, sorry. It would be down. It's funny that like with tablature, people have these symbols. I'm such a bad tablature. Like, to me, my symbols are like down, up. Somehow, you know. Hopefully, that won't be offensive to anyone. And so what I do is I continue with that pattern, but since there is, let me make sure this is right because it's not 8 notes. Sometimes I just have to play guitar to figure it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's only 4. Even simpler than I could have imagined. So it's a 4-note pattern, and I'm doing a pull-off here. So here's the thing. Because I'm doing a pull-off, I don't have to pick this, so this is gone. So let's respect this space. You know, even though there's a hole there, it's still a significant rhythmic area. And it looks like, for a second, I'm not doing alternate picking. I've got 2 downstrokes in a row. And you think that's not alternate picking. But it is, because there's the invisible upstroke. So it's still in that same rhythmic grid, that same motion, even though you're not actually hitting anything. And I've unfortunately been a bad teacher or something in getting the idea that, you know, you don't have to like convert this to alternate picking by making this an up and this a down, and then the next time it reverses, and you know, it's exactly the same thing, just with an invisible upstroke that you don't have to play. But the motions for alternate picking are basically still there. And that I find, at least in my own playing, helps a whole lot. And so when I play this pattern, it's still like that kind of alternate picking, but the upstroke is gone, and in its place is the pull-off. And just, you know, this sounds like a simple lick, but on its own, this is so useful. So many, that's like the core of so many fast things that are really useful and fun and indestructible. So then all I did was took that bottom note, tossed out that note, and put one on a lower string, so I'm skipping that. And again, the same picking. 2 downs, down, down, up, down, down, up. Now just to show you how useful this is, like for example, that there's a Kansas song that I wanted to cover called Point of No Return, which goes, that's exactly this technique. It was going, I changed the shape a little bit to be major instead of minor. And then I repeated the top 2 notes, so it's like, and then move it up. And suddenly I'm in keyboard and violin territory. That's not a guitar lick, that's what the keyboards and the piano play. So I hope that's helpful. That's the overall principle is when I'm not picking something, it usually still stays in the format of alternate picking. It doesn't always, I still break my own rules sometimes, but I found from having to teach, so many different things that I do, that when I break my own rules, it's usually like one rule next to another rule. I'm confusing at this point, so don't listen to me, but if you do this, it'll help. That's the principle. All right, there's one there.
I have a question. How do you get in and out of this scale you've shown? That's my major problem when I try things like this, because usually this chord, like A9, A13,
yeah,
shows up for a very short time. In my case, what happens is, either I'm waiting, okay, I have this scale prepared, so let's wait for the chord, and my playing just sucks for all the solo, and then I play those 5 notes, and then I'm screwed, or I try to play a nice solo, and I completely forget about the chord.
I feel your pain. Yeah, well, in different styles of music or different songs, the rate that the chords change can vary radically. And I wrote a guitar column a few months back about the difference between Stranglehold and Stella by Starlight. And I sat down and I counted how long the solo is in Stranglehold, where it stays in one key. And it's something like 2.5 minutes in one key, no changes, same mode. You can use the same mode the whole time. And then in Stella by Starlight, which is a jazz standard, I think you've got about 3 seconds, before the next change, something like that. So there's a radical difference between being able to get comfy, and okay, I found my shapes, okay, you just visualize them, I know where they are. There's a huge brain difference between, having 2 minutes to play something or 3 seconds. And I'm a rock player, so I'm used to Stranglehold. And slowly but surely, I'm getting used to playing quicker changes. And like anything, I think the best way to learn something is in small, slow chunks. That way, you can feel the joy of success. Just make it small enough where you can do it, and then as you repeat it, you'll reinforce that success. For example, one of the things that I did to improve my own chord change technique was I wanted to play the chord changes of a blues, which relatively simple, but still they're if you want them to be, you can get complex with it. But I thought the first part is to go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, so from A to D. And for my groove I chose that Joe Cocker song, "Feeling All Right." So that's 1, 2, or just a bar on each chord. It's about maybe 3 or 4 seconds on each one. So that's whipping by for rock and roll brain. That's really cooking as far as having to change your key center. And initially I tried to find, like you were talking about, there's just not time to fit a whole arpeggio or a whole scale sometimes. So I tried to find, well, what are the important notes? What are the things that I really want to concentrate on? And for this one, maybe I want to do, that would be a nice phrase for the first one. And the next one I might go, that's just 4 notes. That's not the whole, not the whole thing. And I do it slow, and if I make a mistake, I stop. And now this is the thing I do a lot, is if I make a mistake, I'll stop and I'll work on it until it works. So for example, I just did that now. The first time I played this, it didn't really end well. And I want to look for a good end. So maybe I'll just play that chord in my head. That would work better. It was the right amount of time. Nice rhythm. And to make that phrase work, I played the first note twice. I didn't just play it straight up and down. Well, that works too. And the other thing that's really nice for the ear with chord changes is if you pick a phrase and you're able to morph it to each chord. So for example, if I did this over the 4 chord, can I change it so a couple notes to make it so it'll fit over the 1? And let's see if I went. I'll do the one that I learned earlier, that 13 one. And it's really about building vocabulary. Just having, everybody's got vocabulary in a certain area. Most guitar players know a pentatonic vocabulary, maybe some, natural minor scales or Dorian scales. But, each style of music requires a different vocabulary. I was thinking the other day that when I was a teenager, I used to think that blues was just metal slow. And it's a whole different language. It's not only a vocabulary of notes, it's a vocabulary of bending and of timing and of feel and phrasing and tone. There's so many elements in every style of music, whether it's rock or jazz or metal or classical, whatever it is. They all have their own vocabularies. And it takes a while to build that up, and hopefully you can find a way to enjoy doing that. And to me, the way to enjoy doing it is to be successful, and the way to be successful is to make it small and manageable, little bite-sized pieces, so you're not choking on this giant ball of notes. All right. Any more? Am I still doing good?
You got 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
10.
Oh, that's fantastic. There's one back there.
A lot of people associate you with upstrokes. What makes you choose to start a phrase with an upstroke rather than a downstroke?
What makes me start a phrase with an up rather than a down? I must admit, this is something that I developed completely by accident. I didn't methodically think, there should be an upstroke here. It was a thing where I just played a lot and stumbled onto things and they worked, and later I had to teach them and figure out, wow, I'm doing this opposite from everybody in the world. And let's see, I would say that the thing that really got me started with it, the first place where I started to veer off from the rest of guitar humanity was in a slow shuffle. Like if you do, now there, I'm doing like a shuffle strum. And it's basically down, up, the down stroke is on the down beats. Down, 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 with the syncopated accents being the upstroke. So that's the most common way to play that. But when I was a teenager, for whatever reason, I started reversing that and having an upstroke be the downbeat and the accent. So it's up, 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 with the downs on the syncopated accent. The advantage to that is, especially if you have a lot of distortion, which I did, because I was a rocker, you can keep the notes separated from each other a little bit. And I'm not sure why, but let me just demonstrate. If I put some distortion on and I play it with up, I can really keep those notes distinct. Where if I do the downstroke, the A note is ringing out a little more. And to me, so much of the technique of soloing is playing single notes. When you play one note, you have to control the other 5. And that's a huge battle with the instrument. That's, you don't have to do that with a drum set. You hit one drum, you don't have to like put all your limbs on the other drums to make sure they don't start making noise. You play a piano, when you play one note, you don't have to control the other 87. But with guitar, you play one note, you have to control those other 5 strings. And I found that outside picking made it easier to control the notes and to separate them from each other. So it really started there. I'd really recommend that as a starting point of getting used to doing upstrokes and the downbeat. It's just that, this is basically an open A string, and we're playing the typical rock and roll, Johnny B. Good, Chuck Berry, E, F sharp, and G on the 4th string. And just try that with an upstroke on the accents. Up, 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 up. And I really sort of had that supercharged when I saw Van Halen doing a song called, I think it was Loss of Control, which is really fast. I shouldn't play that. And he starts that off with open strings, but then later in the tune, he does it in C, which doesn't work with the open strings. And he goes, but the tempo is cooking. He's like, and I saw him do it live, and I was like, oh my God. And I just didn't think it was possible, but I went home and that outside picking method managed to be able to do it fast enough and also clean enough. So I think that's where it came from, that's where I'd start. And I really use it by feel. And if you join my online school, I can show you a lot. I'd have enough time to show you specific things. But in this format, I just want to give you a good starting place, because it's best to start at the start.
Like Pat Travers kind of style. Was he using diminished stuff with his pens?
Was Pat Travers or Dispatcher use a lot of diminished things?
Yeah.
There's one great diminished moment in Snortin' Whiskey.
Right, right.
And diminished will fit well in a lot of blues stuff, just because the notes of diminished, by coincidence, happen to fit inside the blues scale. It gives it a certain flavor because you're not playing all the notes, just in the same way we did. Diminished chooses a specific kind of tonal character because it has these certain notes, and it sort of tweaks your ear a certain way, which is nice. But Pat Travers sort of saved my blues life. When I went to GIT and learned a lot of major scale patterns and harmonic minor scale patterns, also Yngwie was popular at the time, and my blues playing disappeared. And I had a great, valuable, humiliating moment when at a Racer X rehearsal, I was doing a blues jam with Bruce Bouillet, the other guitar player in Racer X. And Bruce is a killer blues player, and he'd play an awesome lick, and I would play like my natural minor. And in the right context, that sounds great. In a blues, it does not work. And it's not because of speed, it's because of the notes. And I could play that, I could tweak that so it would fit if I made it Dorian instead of natural minor. That's much more will fit with the chords that are typically found in blues. But I had to actually sort of develop, or not develop, because I'm certainly not an inventor of the blues, but I had to take a look at what notes are used in blues, get out the neck paper, and figure out where they are. Because I had, metal had come in and decimated my blues playing, so I had to put it back. And Pat Travers was the inspiration, because even though he's blues-based, he's still, really intense and fast and has great rock tone, and so it was a live album called Go For What You Know, which features both Pat Travers and another amazing guitar player named Pat Thrall. And that was a life-changing record for me. All right.
One more question.
One more question, there we go. Max.
When you were younger and, I always think about like technical breakthrough moments, where all of a sudden you're playing something and then like, whoa, that just really came out very naturally. Can you describe an early moment when you, like a song that you were working on or a piece that you were working on where like the next day you were playing and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had that,
Yeah.
you know, that moment.
I would say the first one I thought of was the downstroke. The first 2 years that I played guitar, I didn't know that downstrokes existed. I only played upstrokes. And so it was a pretty big moment to know downstrokes existed too. Another thing was the idea of taking a chord and just playing the notes separately. Like my first guitar teacher showed me the Ringo Starr song, just the fact that you could do that instead of strumming. And it sounded like the record. Even though that stuff's relatively simple, I still use it. I mean, just playing the notes of the chord separately. For the shred world, when I first went to MI, a student showed me the picking lick that I've become associated with, even though it probably belongs to Al Di Meola. And if someone had showed that to me earlier, I may not have been ready for it, but I'd been doing so much left-hand stuff that my left hand could fall in and I could synchronize it. And I wish I could remember, I don't think he even showed me the picking strokes. I just sort of, by luck or by coincidence, started with the upstroke. And that can be a big point of contention. There's certainly a lot of guitar players that are like, that feels weird, I want to start with the down. And so finally, I went on YouTube and I watched an Al Di Meola, thing where he does that lick. And thank goodness he does it with an up too. So there's Al and me, we've got a team going. The lick that starts with the upstroke. And let's see, other technical break. I mean, discovering string skipping, which actually just really, because this is all stuff that I was ready for. The string skipping isn't where you want to start as a guitarist, but because I could already do semi-legato things like this, with maybe 3 notes per string. I say semi-legato because I'm pulling off the second and third notes. I was already doing that, so it was really no challenge at all to just put some notes on the G string instead. I was just ready for it. And maybe that's the last message I should leave you with, is if I can pat myself on the back for anything as a guitar learner, is that I was pretty good at figuring out what I was ready for. And there were always guitar players that were faster than me, and I just look at it and go like, that's great, I'm not there yet. and I was fine with that. I just thought, I'm gonna just play what I'm ready for, pick songs that I can actually do, I could play all the way through. So, and I still remember, the first band I was in, I wasn't doing Dream Theater tunes, I was doing Steve Miller. This is a song about Billy Joe and about Sue, that kind of stuff. Did that for years, and it's great music. And then, gradually, when I felt ready for it, I would have those moments of discovery. But they only happened because of what came before it. And let's see, I'm trying to think of one more for you. I had a really good summer before I went to MI. I was 17, had the summer vacation off, and it was the first time that I had a metronome. And there were 2 licks that I metronomed that really built up my picking. It was the first time I really started to try to do alternate picking. I think I showed this one before, the Yngwie one. It was the first time that, again, that I used a metronome. And I used it right, the way you're supposed to, where I played it perfect and slow to build the muscle memory. So my muscles start knowing the lick as good or better than I do. And the brain can turn off, and the fingers just do what you want them to because you've invested in that muscle memory. And then you can speed it up. And maybe you can make small mental notes, like the downstroke happens on the downbeat, pinky happens on the downbeat. You just think, pinky, pinky, pinky. So that was a summer. And the same summer was the Van Halen one. And again, super slow, making sure the strokes are consistent, in time with the metronome. It took me a long time, months and months. But, it wasn't the painful months and months because I had, you know, Hawaii 5-0 and David Letterman. Just like an hour every night after my parents went to bed, I'd do those, just sort of zone out in front of the TV. And the thing is, you'll really see the progress if you play it slow and perfect. Well, I don't remember who it was, but when I went to GIT, one of the teachers said a really funny thing, which was, if you practice like playing sloppy, you get really good at playing sloppy. You know, whatever you practice at, you get good at. That's what your muscles remember. So, you know, when you play, don't be tempted to like, oh, I want to do a little faster. Because you'll get good at that. You don't want to get good at that. You want to get good at playing cleanly and perfectly. And then, you know, as you invest in that, it'll pay off. And you'll see it. You know, it's really amazing what happens when you play slowly and perfectly. Things develop at an amazingly quick rate. You know, I mean, a summer might seem like a long time, but you know, I'm sure everybody here's been, you know, you want to play guitar for the rest of your life. It's really an enjoyable thing. So summer's nothing. All right. Thank you so much. You guys rock. Thanks for listening to me talk.